I am Leo Gilling. Good morning to you, everybody. If you don't know me, probably because you're a little bit younger than most of the people that I am accustomed to calling cousin. So if you're younger than like Lorna and Audrey, there's a likelihood that I won't know you. And there's a likelihood that I have seen you and didn't recognize you as my cousin. But we are cousins. The reason I'm doing this video is because, Lorna didn't get enough time to read the lengthy story that I told about Fred Bryan. I think it's necessary for me to voice all of the things that I know about Fred since we were kids, very small kids. And I met Fred. I remember clearly as a young kid, the first time I met Fred. We went on what we call in St. Mary, a country journey to Mount Industry, right? So Mount Industry to me in Orocabessa was country. Orocabessa to Kingston is country. But we got country, and I met Fred. I met Fred with Grandma. I think he was living there with Grandma. I don't know. Lucetta Scott is your grandma, is all of our grandma. We're downstream. And I think Fred was living there with Grandma. And when we got there were 4 of us in my family. Then there was Aunt Una kids with Paul and Valerie, and then there was Aunt Cutie kids with Babes and Maureen, and all of our families were there. I'm sure there were 12 to 15 of us in the place. Fred took a liking to me. And I wonder why. I want to think that I was the only boy in that whole circle that was almost his age, because Paul wasn't there. Paul wasn't a country boy. He didn't want to come to country. So he tell me. And so he kind of took a liking to me. So every time we go to country, like it was almost every year, we spend the entire summer at country and in a Mount Industry. And I can describe Grandma's house, the small house perched on a hill. When you walk in, you see the house, the front of the house. But when you go to the back of the house, you're actually going downhill. Remember that, you're going downhill. So you go downhill to go to the kitchen, which was like a slab thing around there where we have to go find wood and thing. And then a little bit further, you see a big mango tree. It's a number 11 mango tree, and the toilet was right next to it. And then from there is like steep hill going down with banana and cocoa, all kind of stuff going on, right? And Fred would just run down the hill I wondered how he did that. So he would train me how to run down the hill and grab on the banana tree, or use your foot to just stop that banana tree, that kind of thing. It was really cool. And you'd teach me how to eat the cocoa. Is that what they call it? The chocolate. Yeah. So you would break the shell and there's some white stuff in there. Tastes good, Fred was a real country boy. And he taught me a lot. He taught me things, how to go up bush, go get wood, and you hold it like so. And you walk and throw it down into the kitchen, one little thing there. He taught me how to start the fire. He teach me how to climb tree. Fred was the ultimate country boy. There was a river at the bottom of that thing. And then there was a river somewhere else down the street, and we'd go down the street to bathe and come back up. And, Fred was Mr. Mount Industry. I think he knew everybody in the Mount Industry. Fred would take me from one place to the next. And I don't remember that. He took me to one far bush. Said it belongs to our cousin next door. Far, you have to go down into the gully, come back up, and go over and go far. I don't remember what the place name. And but he could walk a lot. And we would go and look mango, you know. There was a cousin, another cousin next door. So we have two cousins, cousin Soares and then Cunningham. Me never know say Cunningham a cousin because me always a thief in mango, but me things they would just thief it because you know it's a mango tree. I am going to raid it. But I later found out that Cunningham was actually a cousin of Grandma's too. So, but Fred, we'd go from one place. We walk down the street to Akazal. We walk up the street to Mount Industry, up to where you know, Auntie. Oh, remember where Auntie that's Cecil's mother, Cecil and Junior and G, and then we'd go down the hill down to one place and he carried me go show me which part my grandfather lived and I mean Fred took me everywhere, and so we had a great relationship as youth throughout those summers. For a while, we didn't go back to Grandma because we were getting bigger and stuff. But I didn't lose Fred because as soon as I left high school in 1978, Mama wanted me to go spend some time with Aunt Una in Kingston. Well, Aunt Una never really see me there because I had gone there and it's kind of boring staying in Aunt Una's house, really. You know, you go there and she has this grill and you have to stay beyond the grill. And I mean, to me, you're just a lookout, you know. Me never liked that kind of experience there. I wanted to be where Fred was. So when Mama sent me to Aunt Una that year, me find Fred. And Fred lived on a street named Campbell Lane or Campbell Street or something like that. You know, it's like Campbell something, right? But Aunt Cutie lived there with all our kids and stuff. And I'd go, I went to spend time with Fred. And that's when I knew how skilled this man was. Yes? All right, so first of all, on a personal note, there was an ackee tree, big ackee tree right behind Auntie Yard, right? And Fred thought he was Kung Fu King, the king of Kung Fu, all right? He tied a big rope all the way to the top of the tree, right? And he wouldn't climb the tree, he would climb the rope. So he just and slide back down, Fred. And then he'd take me out to practice kick karate and, you know, and I thought Fred could be a Jackie Chan in a movie. He was really good, karate guy, right? And he was strong, you know. But Fred also had the hopes of being a rich man, a very rich man, you know. So he laughed rich when he if Fred laugh after you, you will laugh after, okay? But Fred had this laugh, you know, and so. But yeah, he was a karate king, man, and he taught me that he had a scooter in 1978. And that's where we would take the scooter and move around Kingston. Be a pillar back a Fred, hold on upon him thing. And it's like he taught me how to ride, he taught me how to drive that thing. And then he introduced me to machining. Well, we never hear about machining car parts and all that stuff. We never hear about that. But he was an expert and he was working with one machine shop and then he was consulting or working part-time for another one. So he had two of them. So he would work most of the day at one of them, then he'd leave and go and work at another one. And I'd right there, pee, clock back at him, you know? Because they didn't mind me being there because there's one more hand that they can use to do. And he he was skilled. He was so skilled that each of these guys would send him to other machine shops or other garages to fix other people's cars. That's how good Fred was in Jamaica as a machine shop guy, right? So he did auto parts, but he worked on engine blocks and engine heads and all of that stuff, right? So, you know, I was around Kingston, and you know, Fred, you know, Kingston to me was bad man place. A rock best we come from. So me about Kingston, me know about man I get caught up and stab up and everything, right? Fred drive me through the worst part of Kingston. And trust me, him have friends all over the place. And late at nights, he'd be traveling, me and him travel on the bike coming home. A bike is a scooter, right? And so he took me as a brother. Eh? And I really enjoyed being around him, because when you're around him, you feel like you have hope to being something, right? Because he's always doing something. He's very handy, hands-on guy, and very flexible. He can, anything that you want built and you think that you want made, Fred could make it. That's how good he was. Eh? So there goes two parts of our lives: the country life, where he took me as a brother, and town life, he took me as a brother. To me, I was his brother, right? To me. And so I went back home. I went to college. Fred came to America. And so after I finished college and I went to work and stuff, I left Jamaica in 1984. And my mother was already in New York. Fred was already there. And Mama told Fred, obviously, that I'm coming. And so he came to pick me up at the airport. And Fred took me. It was cold and stuff. But once I got there, I don't know where Fred was working. But what I knew, he had high hopes of starting his own business. Yes? He wanted so badly to start his own business. I recall him going from one shop in the Bronx to Brooklyn, all across Brooklyn, looking for old engine heads. And it's mostly American cars. So he didn't want no Toyota, he didn't want no Lexus. He wanted American engine heads, whether they are in good condition or in bad condition. And then he had an old car somewhere, I don't remember which part of Brooklyn, and he would take those old engine parts and go and throw them in the back of this old car, right? I remember it's a wagon. It's a wagon. Something like what Aunt Cynthia brought to Jamaica, a big wagon. By the way, the auntie in Mount Industries, Books. We just remember her name, Lord Auntie Books. All right, and so he would stack this car with engines. So we'd go up there every day, put in 2 or 3 or 4 engine heads inside there, 1 engine block here and there, and so forth. And then a few weeks later, listen to this. A few weeks later, Fred said to me, let's go up to East 98th Street. I'll never forget that name, right? Let's go up to East 98th. We went up to East 98th Street, and he opened up. No, he didn't open anything. He showed me a space all boarded up, all right? And he says, I'm watching that place because that's going to be mine. That's what he said to me. I'm watching that place, I'm going to be mine. A few weeks later, he got a truck, a van, a pickup, and he came and picked me up at the house. And we went to the Bronx to pick up a piece of equipment. There's a standing equipment about 6 feet high. And when I asked him what it was, he says, it's a head cleaning machine. So he would put the head cleaner, the engine's heads in there and roll it, and this thing would clean it up, you know? And so I think it has some kind of dust in there or chemicals in there to clean it up and so forth. So we went to pick up that piece of equipment, and then we went and pick up another piece of equipment in Brooklyn. And we ended up at the place where Fred took me to a few weeks ago and showed me that he wanted to be that boarded up. He wanted that place to be his. And I remember going there, and we pulled off using our hands to pull off the wood off of the front of that building. Ladies and gentlemen, when me walking at the place, I wanted to step back out, because me said to myself, me not going to that place. And, you know, when, you know, I learned in life that two people can be driving in the same bus, same seat, sitting next to each other, looking out the window and seeing two different things, all right? What I saw was mess and dirt and doo-doo and all kind of stuff. And Fred turned to me and said, something like, isn't this a lovely place? Mr. Virgin, where I look on. You know, he saw the future in the place. But I didn't see that. Me uncle say, work. And so he and I went into the gutter of that place and used shovel and borrow and all kind of thing and wash it out. And I mean, I remember his wife walking in there one day and just turned back. You know, she said, no, I'm not going to do that. But we cleaned out for about 3-4 weeks. We cleaned that place out. Don't go. Well, let me tell you, when we walk and look up the stairs, we went upstairs, but we had to hold on to different parts of the rail to get up, because the rungs were rotted out, right? And when we got upstairs, the only thing that looked like there was a bedroom up there was a bath sitting, hanging on to his last breath, because if you touch it, it fell. In fact, we did touch it and it fell down on the bottom floor. We went there, touched it, and the bath fell boom on the floor down below. Now, that's how bad inside of the place was. And so, but we worked it. We worked it for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And gentlemen and ladies, I really got tired, because me that come from Jamaica, the place in court and have no light, no, just me and him down there with flashlight and lantern. I clean up the place at night time, because we couldn't do it at daytime. We couldn't do it at night time, because if we do it at daytime, police will come and say we have to leave. But we do it at night, and then no bother way, right? So we cleaned it up, and then move those engine heads from in that vehicle, put them in there. We put the equipment that we went to pick up in Bronx and Brooklyn, and move it inside of the store, inside of that place, downstairs, because we couldn't do anything upstairs. We left it there. And he showed me how to, he showed me how to clean engine heads. He showed me how to use chemicals and show me which one is good and which one is bad, how it stayed there and how it stayed there. And you know, sometimes we threw some of them out because they had been broken or they cracked somewhere, then throw them out because they can't come back. And we were there for a while, and he would pay me about $50 a week. I know a lot of money in 1984, 85. And so I stayed with him for a while until I couldn't stay anymore. It was too cool, man. And I got an opportunity to go to California. So I went to California. 2 years, 3 years later on, I came back from California. When I came back, I called up Fred and he said, come on, come over here, come check me, come check me. And I passed the place 3-4 times and couldn't find the place. You know, I had to go back to another phone booth again and call him. He said, yeah, man, you're right, there's someone. Look for the people in a uniform. And when I looked around, they were passing me by. People were passing me by. People in Bryan's machine shop or something like in uniform. I said, what, what the hell? Fred had whole heap of employees working and didn't even have time for me because I went up there. He said, man, Patsy up the stairs, go and go check her. You know, but when I walked through, it was amazing to see the phenomenal work that had been done to bring what we were working on that looked nasty and thing when me see as hard work and stuff Fred saw in the future. He saw his future there and he created it. When I walked up the stairs, I didn't even recognize the darn place. And, I mean, when I left New York, Fred and his wife, they had a son named Haskell. I used to push him around. Haskell, I think it's Haskell. I used to push him around because I used to babysit him. And then they had a couple other kids around. I don't remember where them named because they were older. They never need me. Them just ball. But Haskell was a little quiet baby when we have to push around and thing. But they were living in an apartment. When I came, that place was monstrous. It was amazing to see. I felt so good for Fred. It was unbelievable, you know. And he took me out for dinner. We went drinking and thing, and it was really nice to see. Fred had police cars parked up, ambulances parked up, fire trucks parked up, all doing these kind of work. And I said, Jesus, please, oh my God, I was blown apart. It was very, very nice to know Fred as a kid growing up, and the fact that he took me under his wing. He taught me a lot because he showed me that you can envision things and you can make things happen from nothing. Because Fred had nothing at all. All he had was dream. He wanted to move away from mountain industry into Kingston and from Kingston into America. He wanted to be rich. He wanted to be a man that has something that he can say it's his. And he did that. I don't know what happened after I left New York. We kept in touch. We saw most of each other most times, primarily at weddings or funerals and so forth. But I know that Fred has a very sincere, dear part in my heart, and it's because of the learnings that I got from him, the teachings that he gave, the heads up about life that he gave. When you're a boy, you get to see things only in a minuscule way, but Fred was looking broader and bigger, and I am sad, very sad that he has passed. He's still one of my favorite cousins. Call them out, Valerie, Paul, Cecil, Marva. When we think somebody don't marry to Marva, Jeannie with Galar Jono. And I only knew of Jeannie. I only heard of Jeannie when I was growing up. I didn't know her. I met her, wonderful woman, and she loved Fred bad. And Roddy has become a wonderful cousin of mine. Leon, when I grew up, Leon was, he tickle me, make me pee up myself. I don't like you, boy. Leon full of fun when we were growing up. And all of these guys, these other cousins of mine, they're protectors. They shield me, and I feel comforted knowing that they were there throughout. Maureen, oh my God, Lana. All right, guys. And so I'll miss Fred, and to his kids. I only know your dad as a dreamer and a person who can dream big and make those dreams reality. And so I thank Fred for being a part of my life, a part of all of our lives. He was the talk of the town. Whenever you talk about cousin, the first person you say is Fred. And so, yes, Leo Gilling, right.